Hi and welcome. My name is Dr. Sam Sunshine, and today we're going to be learning about aging and what are some of the supplements that you may try to slow the aging process down. So this is a very complex topic, and I'm only going to be naming several of the kind of maybe some of the more recent anti-inflammatory supplements. There are many more. So if you get to the end of this talk and you feel that your favorite anti-aging supplement is not listed, it's not because it's not important. It's just that I didn't want to make this a 2-hour lecture. So I hope you enjoy it. I love putting together these talks. And if you're one of my members of my medical group, one of my patients, and you have a topic that you want to learn more about, please let me know. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen and we're going to get started. And here we go. And again, if you do listen to this and you have any questions, please reach out. Let me know what those are, and I'd be more than happy to answer them. So the topic is anti-aging supplements, treating aging as a disease. And my inspiration for really learning about aging, as I'll mention later towards the end of the talk, is Dr. David Sinclair, who is a professor in anti-aging. Really, he's a clinic. He does mostly bench work looking at aging in yeast cells, and he wrote a book called Lifespan, and it's very interesting. So I've tried to learn more about anti-aging supplements and can they be beneficial to humans in prolonging the aging process. And again, aging is complex, but it's important because right now the 85 and older population is projected to increase by 351% between 2010, which was a decade ago, and 2050. And the 65 and older group will grow by 188%. So we're going to see huge growth in this age. And what we want to do as we get older is age gracefully, really, and to still be robust, energetic, thoughtful, and engaged as we become older. And supplements may be a beneficial adjunct to healthy aging. Now, again, as you know, if you know me, the 4 pillars of good health, which are also important in aging, is proper sleep, making sure you're getting enough high quality sleep, wearing a sleep tracker device like an Oura ring. Second is getting regular physical activity. Super important. I'll share those. Again, that's a lecture in and of itself, the benefits of exercise as an anti-aging tool. Eating healthy. And as you'll see, I'll give you some examples that certain foods that contain some of these anti-aging ingredients or supplements. And stress reduction. So again, don't do webinars. They're very stressful. I'm just kidding. So again, all this information about the aging population has really ignited a lot of interest in anti-aging and what we can do to not only live longer, but live healthy into later age. So what is aging? As I mentioned before, it's a complex process, but it happens to all of us, right? So we can sit back and it's going to happen anyway, right? But it's really, if you look at it from a cellular perspective, it's accumulated cell damage. And that's when I'm saying cells in our body by these reactive oxygen species or free radicals, and it causes oxidation or inflammation and damages our cells and our tissue. Other people have talked about the aging is really due to the accumulation of these senescent cells, which I'll talk about briefly, but senescent cells are like dead cells that stop reproducing, but they just kind of stick around and they muck up the gears. That's how I explain it. There's also the theory of telomere shortening. And that may also, these are the shoestrings at the end of the DNA. As they get shorter, as we get older, gets to a point, and maybe that is cell program death when those telomeres get too short. And basically, aging is loss of physiologic integrity, leading to impaired physiologic function and increased death risk. So again, the leading killers in our population, probably globally, is still type 2 diabetes. We've seen a fourfold increase or a 400% increase in the incidence of type 2 diabetes since the 1980s. Cancer. There has been a reduction in cancer, but that could be largely due to the reduced number of people that currently smoke cigarettes. Alzheimer's disease, which we also call type 3 diabetes, and heart disease. Again, we also have reduced or plateaued the incidence of heart disease, but it's still the number one cause of death in both men and women worldwide. And the risk factors, again, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, sedentary lifestyle, smoking, obesity, and uncontrolled blood pressure. So one of the things I've tried to impress upon my patients as well, and to get people to start to think about, as we age, and again, there's no time like the present, and there's no time that you need to wait until, like you don't have to wait until you're 50 to start thinking about health and aging. Really, that hasn't really been defined. Like, when do we start aging? It's probably after the age of 25 when we kind of hit our peak in terms of cell function and cell vitality. But we can maintain that vitality and functionality later in life. And so this graph is basically looking at what some people will call the geriatric curve, or looking at lifespan, and then comparing it to a term that's somewhat new, although was coined in the 1980s, called health span. And so most people start to decline, according to this graph here, at age 40, where our health starts to diminish. And then when we hit the bottom line, that's when we die. Well, can we extend that so we have more years of productivity and functionality as we get older, and then spend less time feeling disabled? And a lot of people, the question is, do we want to live longer if our disability is going to be being disabled being a significant factor for more years of our life if we're living longer? So the goal is to not only live longer, but to live healthy, productive lives. And can we do that? And the research is showing that there's promise that we may be living longer and healthier with less disability and less illness. And again, centenarians, these are people who live to be 100, are not immune to death. The difference is they get chronic disease about 20 years later than the rest of us. And again, environmental factors play a big role in determining longevity. The food we eat, physical activity, and sleep quality, as I mentioned. So this is a quote by Betty Friedan, who was an activist in the feminist movement. And she said, aging is not lost youth, but a new stage of opportunity and strength. And I just love that, because most people that I converse with think that aging is inevitable and that we're going to become weaker. We're going to start to lose our memory, our muscles, our physical fitness, and we're just going to kind of gradually decompose. And that's really not what I'm planning to do with my life. And I want to take my patients with me and my friends and family with me down a path where we can live vibrant lives into our 80s, 90s, and beyond. So the first supplement I'm going to talk about is Nicotinamide Mononucleotide, or NMN. And this is a bottle of it to the right. NMN is a source of cellular energy. It's used to synthesize a molecule called NAD+, and I'll talk more about that, giving a couple slides just talking about what NAD is and why it's important. And so again, NMN is kind of a precursor for making NAD+. And NAD+ is a coenzyme. It's involved in 500 enzymatic reactions. Last week, I talked about how magnesium is a cofactor in 300 enzymatic reactions, and NAD even more. And it's involved in many biochemical reactions, super important in our cell. And we make NAD primarily to replenish NADase, which is an enzyme. And the NADase is used to repair DNA, which is important for longevity. It helps with cell metabolism and regulating cell death. So really important. So where do we find NMN? Vegetables such as edamame and broccoli, as what is shown in the picture on the right. That looks delicious to me. What I find in most of my patients, they don't like to eat vegetables. Most people rely on meat and then processed carbohydrates like bread, rice, and pasta. And I think we need to really think clearly here and try to introduce more healthy, organically grown fruits and vegetables in our diet. Other foods that contain NMN are avocado and tomato. And then meats contain some, but not much NAD. What you won't see is foods like McDonald's or Popeye's chicken on these lists. So I want to apologize before I even get into this, but NAD+, again, this slide looks at NAD, and if you look at the top left, it has the aging that is in a light blue oval at the top. And then if you go down, aging is related to cell damage and these reactive oxygen species and inflammation. So those of you who follow health, the literature on health, it's all about inflammation. We want to subdue inflammation and reduce inflammation. So as we age, if you look at that kind of pinkish orange rectangle that says NAD+, as we age, that NAD goes down. So the whole purpose of this slide is just to show that aging increases. As a result, we see increase in inflammation. And as we have more inflammation, it reduces the NAD+. And just above that is the NMN, which is also reduced. So when we see NAD+ deficiency, what happens? Well, we see an increase in type 2 diabetes and insulin sensitivity. Insulin sensitivity is the opposite of insulin resistance, and that's going to be my talk for next week. With NAD deficiency, we see an increase in obesity. We see an increase in heart disease. We see an increase in Alzheimer's disease and cerebral ischemia. That's reduced blood flow to the brain. And NAD biosynthesis, so the production of NAD+ decline with age. So kind of what that slide shows there on the right. So again, the main leading causes of death globally can be attributed to NAD+ deficiency. And by taking the NMN, you can help maintain NAD+. So this is a slide. If you look at the top on the left, it's NMN supplements. It leads to an increase in NAD+. And as a result, you curtail these diseases like I just mentioned, so it's a little redundant, but diabetes, obesity, heart failure, vascular dysfunction, stroke, Alzheimer's disease, retinal degeneration, that's lining in the back of your eye, kidney disease, alcoholic liver disease. So pretty amazing, right? So let's see if I can go back. So that is NMN. One of the other things that NMN and NAD+ help with is stimulating the production or helping the function of a molecule called sirtuin. And there's a whole family of sirtuins. And this is getting very deep, and I apologize, but I thought I'd mention it anyway. But sirtuins are a family of signaling proteins. And again, this is all has to do with aging. And if you look at the slide on the right, you see how NAD plus helps sirtuins do one of many things, but one is to deacetylate or take off an acetyl group, which can sometimes accumulate on DNA. So it helps with DNA health. So again, NAD and sirtuins, or NAD plus and sirtuins, and NMN, which is all in that slide there. That's another pathway where anti-aging takes place. So again, these sirtuins use NAD plus to regulate multiple cellular functions, such as cell growth, good thing, which we want. And again, as we get older, we have less cell growth. Energy metabolism, which is primarily done in the mitochondria. Stress resistance, reduces inflammation, and improves circadian rhythm and neuronal function. And that's basically nerve function. So these sirtuins are very important. And there are books now if you want to learn about sirtuins. I haven't read those yet. This is maybe a different way of looking at it, more simplified with this picture here that I just popped up. Sirtuin is one of sirtuins that's been studied probably the most. But if you go down, the main thing, DNA repair. Again, those are our chromosomes. And then what does that do? It helps with metabolism, reduces neurodegenerative diseases, reduces cancer, cardiovascular disease, and inflammation. And again, inflammation is probably the underlying cause of most chronic illness. All right, so you can take a breath before we talk about the next anti-aging supplement that I'm going to talk about today, and that's resveratrol. And this is a natural antioxidant, also a polyphenol. In this slide at the top, if you look at this purple oval with resveratrol, and it stimulates AMPK, Sirtuin, and it helps with antioxidation if you go down to the next level of bubbles, and anti-inflammation. And that's the main point I want to make with that slide. Again, resveratrol stimulates AMPK, which is another one like a sirtuin, and stimulates Sirtuin. It's a natural ingredient found in grapes, berries, and peanuts. It modulates oxidative damage, inflammation, shortening of the telomeres, and cell senescence or cell death. And I'll talk more about these senescent cells and how they just don't do a service for us. And there's ways we can target cells from becoming senescent. Resveratrol reduces reactive oxygen species, or these free radicals I talked about earlier, and stimulates the biosynthesis of other endogenous antioxidants. And again, this is a big one, but it also maintains concentrations of intracellular antioxidants, like superoxide dismutase, glutathione reductase, and et cetera. And these are the things, these natural antioxidants help to reduce reactive oxygen species that are happening, a trillion times a second in our body, apparently. So, and then also induces telomere maintenance. So it kind of reduces telomere shortening. The next supplement that I'm going to talk about is called Pterostilbene. It's in the same class. It's a stilbene like resveratrol. It's another antioxidant, polyphenol. And in this slide, it's a little, I don't think this is an accurate reading, but those black arrows underneath the yellow oval that says pterostilbene should be inhibitors of NF-kappa beta or NRF2. No, I take that back. I'm thinking, yeah. So pterostilbene works similarly as resveratrol. So I'm going to take a step back here. It has antioxidant and anti-inflammatory effects. AMPK, it stimulates that, which has an antioxidant effect. But this NRF2 seems to accumulate as we get older, and it's an inhibitor of that. And on the right side, it stimulates Sirtuin, but it inhibits NRF2 and NF-kappa beta. So again, this slide I don't think is represented correctly. But again, the main thing is it's an antioxidant and anti-inflammatory. It's found in blueberries and almonds, among others. has an antioxidant and anti-inflammatory effect, just like resveratrol. It inhibits this inflammatory signaling. And there are limited human studies. So resveratrol has been studied for quite some time, maybe 20 years or so, but pterostilbene is kind of new to the landscape of anti-aging supplements. And so there's a lot of mice, yeast, other mammalian studies, but just not much in humans, but they're ongoing. And again, just talking a little bit about that NF-kappa beta, or nuclear factor kappa beta, is that aging people overexpress this, the NF-kappa beta, which then ignites a lethal inflammatory cascade. So we want to curtail that NF-kappa beta production that we see. And this NF-kappa beta is expressed as we age. And it sets the stage for diseases ranging from atherosclerosis, which is hardening of the arteries, diabetes, and Alzheimer's disease. So again, we want to inhibit that NF-kappa beta, and pterostilbene seems to do that. So the last one I'm going to talk about is Fisetin. Again, somewhat new to the anti-aging supplement world, but it's another plant flavonoid. So again, those are 3 plant flavonoids, polyphenols that I'm mentioning. So again, we're seeing them in various fruits and vegetables, and it really underscores the benefits of eating fruits and vegetables. You don't have to be a vegan per se, but I think the predominant foods you should be consuming are fruits and vegetables. So mostly plant-based, eating real food. Unfortunately, we succumb to the cheap, highly processed, highly refined, easy to procure fast food. It's a shame, but it really is undermining the health of our nation. And we are probably one of the unhealthiest nations, even though we spend 4 times more on healthcare. But we really need to understand that in order to age without disability, we've got to cut out the fast food, the highly refined, highly processed foods, the breads, the rice, the pastas, the sugary foods, and we need to cut out the soda, the pizza. Now, again, it's not to say you can't ever have that, but you can't make it a staple in your diet. All right, so let's talk about Fisetin. It's found in various fruits, like pictured on the right, strawberries, apples, and persimmons, and grapes, and vegetables like tomatoes and onions and cucumbers, nuts, and wine. And it is also a senolytic. I don't think I finished the slide, so there you go. A senolytic is something that kind of stops senescent cells from forming. And Fisetin has been shown to slow that process or inhibit these zombie cells or these senescent cells from forming. So that's how it works in terms of its anti-aging ability. It does also have anti-inflammatory and antioxidant, but also immune supporting effects. Again, the anti-inflammatory antioxidant, very similar to the resveratrol and the pterostilbene. And again, it clears away these senescent cells, which is what we want. Again, these senescent cells or zombie cells muck up the gears. And studies have shown it extends lifespan of mice and yeast, but clinical studies in humans are lacking. But I suspect in the next several years, we're going to have more information about the anti-aging effects of Fisetin. And then again, which is near and dear to me, is exercise. So this is my second to last slide. But looking at exercise and aging, I really want people to understand this point, that I think you can have the perfect diet, perfect sleep habits, meditate an hour a day, but if you aren't exercising, you're missing a big piece of healthy aging. So I think it's really important. This slide looks at fitness on the left, which is the y-axis, and on the x-axis is age. So it's 30, 50, 70, and 90 years of age. And if you look at fitness levels, again, V at the top, which is the top solid line, is very fit. So V is very fit. And we can measure that in our office. We do fitness testing, state-of-the-art testing with the VMAX Encore cardiopulmonary respiratory system. So you're welcome to get tested because, again, your fitness is the best indicator of your health and longevity. And I try to recommend this to all my patients. Maybe 1 out of 20 will come in and do it, which is really disheartening. The F underneath the V is fit. So again, very fit is probably 5% of my patient population. Fit, I would say, is the next maybe 15% of my population. But the bottom 80% are either average fitness. Actually, what would that be? W, I would say, below fitness, and then U is under fit. That's going to be the majority of the patients that I see. Most people undervalue the importance of exercise. And I think that's the take-home message of this particular slide. Exercise is so important, and it extends life expectancy as well as health span, quality of life. So I encourage you to get tested. Come to see me and get tested. Find out where you are. I get tested every quarter, either on a treadmill or on my road bike or my triathlon bike, because I want to know where I am. And I'll be honest, when I first started getting tested, I was about 17 years ago, and my fitness is almost the same as it was then. So here's the book by David Sinclair. I listened to his book on Audible, and it was fabulous. I mean, he also speaks on his book, and it's very interesting and very cutting edge. And it's interesting, he wrote it in 2017 and made some predictions that have come to fruition. So in summary, I want to end with a quote by Abraham Lincoln, is that in the end, it's not the years in your life that count, it's the life in your years. And I think that is so important. I don't want to live and be crippled or bedbound and be disabled. I want to be vibrant. I want to be doing things when I'm in my 80s and 90s that I'm doing now. And I think we all have the ability to do that. But it takes consistency and lifestyle. So again, I want to thank you for listening. And I think we need to, redefine later life as a time of growth instead of inevitable decline, is kind of how I think it was put very well. So again, I'll repeat that. Let's redefine later life as a time of growth instead of inevitable decline. So again, come see me if you want to learn about dosing and supplementation with these anti-aging supplements. If you want to get fitness tested, we do that in our office. We're at OC Sports and Wellness in Orange County, California. And I challenge you to make changes for the better. Cut out crappy food and take control of your health. Thank you.